Okay, I think that we are ready and we can start with the panel. Our panel is the role of Western Balkans in European security. Distinguished panelists, honored guests, colleagues, and friends. It is both an honor and pleasure to moderate today's panel on the role of Western Balkans in European security. I extend my gratitude to President Osmani and her team and the organizers of Women, Peace and Security Forum for creating this timely and important space for dialogue. For those who don't know me, allow me shortly to introduce myself. I am Teuta Saatchia. I am a former member of parliament in Republic of Kosovo, ambassador and consul general of Kosovo in New York, Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs, engineer, Master of Electronics and Computer Sciences. Over the year, I have had the privilege of representing my country in both national and international areas, advocating for peace, regional cooperation, and Euro-Atlantic integration. Today's panel brings together an outstanding group of leaders and practitioners. Military officers, policy strategists, academics, and innovation leaders who collectively represent the depth and diversity of expertise required to address the complex security dynamics in our region and beyond. In this session, we will explore the strategic importance of the Western Balkans within the broader European security architecture. We will discuss the implications of current geopolitical tensions, the path toward EU and NATO integration, and the evolving role of technology, diplomacy, and multilateral cooperation in strengthening regional resilience. The panel will follow a two-part structure. Initially, we will have a short introduction and question, and then we will round up with discussion. So let me start by introducing the panelists, and I will start with Lieutenant Colonel Vjosa Maloku. Vjosa Maloku is one of Kosovo's first female cadets, currently head of career development at the Kosovo Security Forces and General Staff. So I will start with a question to you. How is the Kosovo Security Forces preparing new generation of leaders to respond to evolving regional and global threats, particularly from a gender perspective, from inclusion and interoperability perspective within Kosovo's NATO aspiration?
Thank you very much, ma'am, for the introduction. And thank you to Her Excellency, President Osmani, for inviting us in this third forum. In the name of the KSF, we are very honored to be here and contributing in our way to develop the role of women in the sector of security. I am Lieutenant Colonel Maloku, currently serving in the HQ of the KSF as the Chief of Career Development Sector. I've been joining the Kosovo Protection Corps in 2006, when those years were different than now. I have been able to see all the changes since then, and I have been able to see all the transformations that were done during Kosovo Protection Corps, now KSF, and then with the new mission of the KSF, I've been there to see how we developed and how did we manage to get when we are here. Regarding to the questions, what is KSF doing to get more involved and to be stronger and to raise the women's and to include women's in the sector of security, and how they are working to give us a role in KSF, I can say that KSF right now with its new mission is trying to develop by having trainings with our partners and allies, including United States, including Great Britain, Turkey, and all the counterparts that are helping us trying to be more professional, including technology, including professionalized trainings. We do have our units, which are special forces, logistics, we have human resources departments, and we have all the other units that are trying to get more professionalized with equipments, modernized equipments, and also with trainings. We are, as you all may know, we are lacking to get recognized from some very important countries that we would like to be recognized from them. That is causing us some issues. Our main goal is to be a member of NATO. We are trying to get there by getting more professional, getting the right trainings, getting the right equipment, so we can join NATO in the near future. And we are looking forward to work in the agreement that has to be made first, which is a partnership for peace. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It is so important that you were from the beginning, from the scratch, from the creation of these forces, and instill also the dynamics and the gender perspective. To have women in leading position, I think it's very, very important, and congratulations for your work. Now you mentioned Partnership for Peace. I hope Kosovo will soon sign that with NATO and go to the next level. But talking about NATO, we are here very honored to have another speaker, Angela Mundu. She is CEO of 5G CX, former NATO officer, and now AI governance expert, leading national security dialogue on tech policy alignment. Ms. Mandu, a question for you is, drawing from your military and tech leadership, what are the lessons from the wars, maybe from Yugoslav wars in our region, since we are talking about Western Balkans, and how do you see AI, how do you see cybersecurity and technology influencing European security today, especially in Western Balkans?
Thank you, Tuta. Hello, everybody. That's a lot that you packed in there, by the way, so we'll get on with that. Just to give you a little bit of background before I talk a bit about the military experience and the parallels, I've spent most of my career, the last 30 years, which kind of ages me right now, but in the tech sector. I started out with working with a global infrastructure company where we installed basically the cables that are undersea and the cell towers that we all use. I worked for quite a while at BlackBerry. Has anybody heard of BlackBerry here? Oh, good. I always love that when people still know BlackBerry. I ran a predictive AI company for a couple of years, and then as Tuta mentioned, I now have started with my husband a company around fifth generation sensor fusion management and combining cognitive transformation. So really exciting times for me. But if you give me a minute, I just want to go a bit back into my background in the military, because I feel like being here today is like taking my entire career back full circle. In '92, as Tuta mentioned, I was a military captain working for NATO Command in Germany, and I was a military air movements and logistics officer, and I was tasked by UNPROFOR and NATO to plan the largest United Nations move at the time, where Canada was going to move into former Yugoslavia ahead of 22 other nations. Our mission was to reestablish security in what had become a war zone. Even though we were going in as peacekeepers, it was no longer a peacekeeping mission in 10 days. That was ridiculous. 4 months later, I was still there. And we moved over 1,200 troops, 40 trains into the Balkans. It was a complicated mission. I was the only woman on the ground with thousands of men. I basically after a couple of weeks, my leaders realized I needed a couple of bodyguards, and I ended up sleeping under bulletproof barrack boxes because we were shot at continually. I saw the atrocities that we're hearing about here today. I've seen things and heard things that I cannot unsee, and there were many times in that mission where I asked myself, what am I doing here, and are we making a difference? And as a woman who served for peace, I have to tell you that being here now is a deeply moving experience, because there is a difference that's made, and I'm thankful that we still have organizations like NATO, the EU, and others, and the United Nations, still a bit complicated, that are continuing to support. In terms of the parallels of my career path back in the 90s, and where we are now, definitely many things are the same, from the volatility of the political, the economic, the security situations. But there were three things, I think, that I want to focus on in terms of EU and NATO, and particularly when you're moving trains with ammunition, with bullets, with troops across countries into a war zone, there can be a lot of complications. So the first, I think, most important thing required is the coordination and coherence of a strategy. There needs to be a coordinated strategy. There need to be strong alliances across countries and within organizations like the EU, like the UN. And I found myself at a very young age, and a young captain, having to meet with prime ministers of countries and fledgling countries like Croatia, where I needed to get the diplomatic permissions to move our trains and do what we needed to do with our equipment. At one point, I remember going to these meetings, and this was kind of a common question when I'd walk into a room with my translator: why is the secretary here? And what is she doing here? To which my translator would reply, she's the captain, I'm the secretary. And that was always followed by a quick shot of Slivovica they made us drink every time we had a meeting. So it was an interesting time. So managing diplomatic permissions, working across organizations, like I said, with the UN, with NATO. I have to say the UN was not that helpful. They were overly bureaucratic in those scenarios. And I have to also say that when our trains first came in, we finally, after 4 months, had the trains of troops coming into the region. We found ourselves under mortar attack for the next couple of weeks. So the challenge was not having strong rules of engagement back then, and that's an important thing for today as well, where between organizations, you need to have strong rules of engagement in political and volatile scenarios. I think last but not least, what I want to focus on is the time being now for the EU and NATO to shift security to the offensive or the proactive, if you will, as opposed to paying attention when crisis starts to bubble. There's no point after the fact. We know what needs to be done. We need to get coordinated. We need to have the strong mandate, the political unity now to make things happen. We need to have future security efforts, if you will, defined now in the present as well across these organizations. And I really think it's important as well, and we'll talk a bit about this next. We have to understand that the battle space has changed, the threat space has changed, and technology plays a significant part as well. So I think we'll talk about that next time, Ram.
Thank you very much. Thank you. It was really important to hear about what happened in our region, not so far away from today, and that Western Balkans was in fact also a battlefield for wars, where the Kosovo War was the last, and of course it impacted Europe in many ways, in security ways, in refugee ways, in political and every other aspect. So it's pretty important. And your statement that battlefield is not anymore as it used to be, it is changed. And we will talk later about how it changed, what is the role of technology also there. Thank you, and now let's pass to Professor Gzim Visoka. Professor Gzim Visoka is Associate Dean of Research at DCU and globally recognized scholar on post-conflict, statehood recognition, and peace building. And I need to thank him also for all his work that he's doing, documenting with research and with scientific documents that leave behind, leave the documents, leave the experience, leave the research that is so important to be remembered and to be studied. Thank you, Mr. Visoka, for your work. I have a question for you. What can the EU do differently to overcome blockages to peace and threats to security in the Western Balkans, especially in the context of enlargement, where Kosovo is the last in a queue, shifting global alliances? So can you, from your scholar perspective and deep analysis that you do, tell about these relations and how can Europe also be a solution maker or give a possibility to overcome blockages? The floor is yours.
Many thanks, Teuta, and it's great to be here. I want to thank President's team for the invitation, and it's great to see all of you here. So my name is Gzim Visoka. I am based in Dublin, but I'm from Kosovo. Left the country about 15 years ago, I tried to study, write about Kosovo, especially with regard to recognition, its international standing and foreign policy, but also about peace building and state building processes. And it's a great honor to be here. And at a time where we see in the West a reversal of norms such as WPS or diversity, and it's great to see Kosovo holding that agenda up and high, despite sort of negative events and developments happening in the US or in some of the European states. So in response to your question, Teuta, I suppose my main point here is that for Kosovo, the threat to its security does not necessarily come only from Serbia or other non-Western states, but it comes from non-recognition by EU and NATO per se. So I want to put emphasis on this existential security linkage with recognition. So we can try to avoid that elephant in the room, but that is the 101 of Kosovo, sort of a challenge. And so far, Kosovo has been kept in a sort of a limbo situation, and the main blockage to sort of progression here is this ambiguity about its future. Obviously, the country has progressed in terms of democracy, human rights, economy, but internationally it's still perceived as unfinished project. When you're partially recognized and not part of these European sort of institutions, you're a second-hand or a tier 2 subject. So as you're a sub-state, you're a sort of category 2, and we've seen that over the years with enlargement and EU membership. Even though it's a process of emancipation and transformation, it creates a hierarchy. European states are at the top, sort of intervening, giving orders, whereas the aspirant states are in the receiving end. So these institutions, as much as they kind of create emancipation and progress, they create hierarchies and sort of power inequalities. So this question of recognition, I think, should be brought back to the spotlight. And the problem here is that EU has to make up their mind. Do they see Kosovo, especially also the NATO remaining member states, do they see Kosovo as an independent sovereign state and want it to be an equal sovereign state and member of these institutions, or they want to keep it forever in this sort of state of affairs? In the past, we've seen that only through crisis the EU evolves and changes its policy. Unfortunately, that's what we've seen in the 90s and later on with various crises. So So crises have that performative function that opens up opportunities for change. At the moment, we thought that we have Ukraine as a window of opportunity for 4 member states of NATO who withhold recognition of Kosovo to change their position. Unfortunately, that didn't work. And it would be a pity to wait for another major regional crisis or a major geopolitical shift until Kosovo receives its deserved place among the European nations. So this is a kind of a call for preemptive, preventive reflection to change the position on Kosovo. Otherwise, there is that sort of opportunity then for Kosovo to look eastward, to look for alternative partners, and under condition of panic and existential threats, make mistakes. So that's my initial comment. Sort of a major blockage to Kosovo's security is not transnational threats or other challenges, but it is this existential problem of recognition.
Thank you very much for your insight, Mr. Visoka. And you mentioned that when there are crises, not only European unions, but there are new alliances who are built to prevent or to react to that crisis. And I liked a lot that you mentioned that we don't need to wait for a crisis. It is much better to be preventive and to create the situation that will prevent the future crisis. We will come again to that question, having in mind not only Western Balkan and the situation, but also the threats that you already just touched about Ukraine and other crises that make Europe to think and to stick together. Let's introduce now Marta Szpala. Marta is senior fellow and one of Poland's leading experts on Western Balkans politics and EU enlargement. For more, she will tell more about her. The question for you, Marta, is what are the biggest obstacles of Western Balkans face on the path to European Union and to NATO integration? How can regional cooperation help bypass political blockage and geopolitical pressure? Because our region, in comparison to other regions, is still not part of European Union. Some countries are much further, some not. Unfortunately, our country is the last in queue, and so that also face some challenges to security in Western Balkan and in Europe.
At the beginning, I thought that you were asking me about the passion, and I thought my passion is Balkans and Kosovo. So I'm coming here starting from 2008, when you declare independence, and it's my great pleasure to observe how you are developing. Yeah, but as all we know, there are still problems not only in Kosovo, but in whole region. And you ask me, like, what is the biggest problem on the EU path? Kosovo has specific issues, but I think, like, generally, it's like the countries in the region, what they are facing now and what they need now, it's to restore democratic governance and the rule of law. And I think it is also, in that case, like Kosovo is an exception because you don't have such a big problems like the other partners. But for all other 5, I think this is the biggest challenge. And in my opinion, it's very important. We are speaking here about women's rights, security. I think there is no women's rights with rule of law. We need the institution, we need the judiciary, we need the police. So it's like really great to see whole great women policemen here, but we need them. And as I said, in Kosovo, these problems are maybe not so challenging, but we can see that in the other countries, this is actually a problem, that we can have a rule of paper, and rules on paper, but if there is nobody to implement them, it is a huge problem. And one thing, it's like that. I think strong states, it's supporting the women's rights because it can protect them. The second thing is that when we, of course, speak about the EU integration, what I hope will change soon, we will see that you notice like how politics is made, especially in some other countries here, that for the decades, and we can discuss like why it is, why it happens, like when the enlargement was on hold, political elites here were rather building their career on fueling national sentiments and enhancing polarization in the society. So they were not building and focusing on the reform, but what they keep them in power to spread the fear in the society about like what can happen. And Professor Wysoka said that Kosovo is an unfinished project because of non-recognition. I think all these politicians on purpose spread this kind of feeling that none of the states in the region is the finished one, that the border can change, like they can advance, but they also, that they are not finished states, and this is this problem of not finished statehood and constantly spreading a fear, it is the big obstacles. And what we also see, especially now in the region, that there are protests demanding the rule of law and the change, that especially young generation in Serbia, of course, but also in North Macedonia, in Montenegro, they are demanding different policies. They are demanding politicians who are solving the problems, not creating the problems and creating the tension. They want to have a free media, which are also informing the society, not spreading the fears, as I said. And it's not only social media, but regular media who are tool of power here to keep society uninformed and divided. And we speak a lot about the hard security, but I think like this focus of the EU on fundamentals or really building efficient institution and really focus on building functioning judiciary, it is something what should be done. And what I also, like we speak about the regional cooperation, but I think also sometimes on national level, that what we need in these polarized societies, and it's not only case of the Western Balkans, we observe it also in the Western Europe, that politics is based on fear, but it is unconstructive, that we are rather, that it's force us to go to far right, populist solution, not really focus on state building, and also on inclusiveness and rebuilding the community. We somehow, or politicians somehow rather focus on divisions and playing ones against each other, either on the national level or international level. And this is the way how they engage emotionally the society. But I think, and for me, like especially as a woman, it is very important, and I heard the great voices here, that rebuilding the community to work together on building trust and solidarity, it's very, very important. And it is now the momentum, because in the EU we see that the EU is more interested in the region, and there is a new momentum in enlargement policy, and it should be used by the countries in the region to prove that they really can contribute to the security of the whole continent. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Marta. You touched the safety, the security issues and cooperation linked to the democratization, linked to the legislation, linked to human rights, to women involvement, and also the global landscape where far right is rising and threatening, in fact, the human rights. Putting that more burden to each country, that through their democratization, through politicians who make solutions, not division, to prepare their countries and Western Balkans to be a part of European Union. But definitely from all four of your speeches, we saw that, that the safety, the security of Europe is also very much interlinked with Balkans, not to mention wars previous century that started and developed then to the bigger ones. But definitely Western Balkans is an important part. It is a part that need to be preventive, not solving the fires when they occur, and to go together to have a more safe environment. Let's continue to talk. We have amazing panel with different perspectives. The perspective from inside, from Kosovo force, security force, from women within that. I don't know if audience knows, but there are many women who are experts in cybersecurity and who are leading, for example, the director in Ministry of Defense. The cybersecurity department is led by Hafize Bayrami, by women. And there are also many other women very highly specialized in cybersecurity, in banks, and in many very important institutions. That gives also the shift of power. Now look at us. We are 4 women here speaking about safety, about security. We should be all men, not women talking, huh? Wrong. They should be men and women talking about the security that is important for all and for our countries. So please tell us more about preparation of our Kosovo forces, about inclusion of women, about now you are taking part, although Kosovo is not a part of NATO yet, hopefully soon, but you are taking part in activities together with NATO, and how are you more preparing? Or tell us something that I don't know to ask you.
Sure. As you mentioned, that we have very successful women that are serving now in KSF. I can proudly say that all the units of KSF, they do not exclude women in any units or any departments, starting from our Major General, which is the Director of Inspection in our MOD, until the last units that we have in Land Force Command, which we have women soldiers that represent us really well. You also mentioned that what is KSF doing right now to get there, to get to join NATO. As I mentioned before, we are training with the best. That means that all those countries that recognized Kosovo, they are offering us trainings, specialized trainings that are helping us to get there. They are also helping us to have the best equipments, and also the most valuable asset in KSF is human resources. We can have anything else, but you need to have someone behind the equipments. You need to have someone on cyber. You need to have someone behind the computer, and that means that also KSF is also very well focused in human resources, to invest in them, to improve our conditions in KSF. And how is that done? By improving our conditions, by sending the right people to the right trainings. And then this is how we can evolve, and this is how we can get tough, and this is how we get trained. Because when you get trained and you get the right training and you get the right soldier there, then you can say that you can finish your mission and you can do your job in the best way. And also we are working on including women in every sector and any department. We were always proud of all the structure of KSF. I can proudly say that I had, in my personal experience, I had our members of Kosovo Liberation Army. They were I was not the first female in KSF. I had them as an example, and I followed them, and I had the chance to see what did they do, and my path was there just by watching them and following them. And I can really say that They've been helping us a lot, and I do believe that if we also in KSF women help each other and also contribute in each other or support each other, we can be in a better place.
Thank you so much, and I think this deserves an applaud. I think this was a strong message of supporting each other and being together stronger. Thank you. Angela, I cannot wait to start another talk with you about technology. So you told last time that Battlefield is not the same. So Battlefield has changed. How did technology change this Battlefield? What is technology doing? What is AI doing? What is cybersecurity? And I know, and everybody knows, that whenever there is election or whenever there is something happening in one country, the hacker, the ransomware, the distributed denial access, and others are the first to go in and to block communications and others. So how is AI reshaping, how is technology reshaping the new Battlefield, the robots and other? Tell us.
Well, how about I start with the bad news and land with the good news? Yeah, so the battlefield or the battle space is definitely changing, and really I think it's because the destabilizing forces out there are accelerating at warp speed because of technology, because of AI. And so I think the biggest security threats right now can really come down to speed, to being on the offense versus on the defense, and then the need for nations to unify together to work against these threats because they are immense. I have recently been a co-chair of a cybersecurity task force in Canada, and our members of this task force were many technology leaders, from big tech to technology innovators and cyber innovators. And one of them was saying this year that in the last 18 months, because of Gen AI, that hacking had increased and accelerated, and what used to take 48 hours for a hacker to implement into a friendly system was now down to 4 hours. So what does that do to us, the good guys or the friendlies? It puts you on the back foot. It puts you on the defensive. So that has had an immense impact. Gen AI has had an immense impact because the way that the hackers were able to accelerate their hacking capability and repeat it is because they were now using Gen AI for coding. And I recently read, Tuda, and this is really interesting as well, that software developers, 96% of them are using Gen AI for coding. So imagine, that's good. That's on the good side and the good news that they can accelerate some of the work that they're doing. But also another result of that is that from a learning and development perspective, it's estimated in about 2 years that Gen AI is moving so fast that all the software engineering coding could literally be done in Gen AI. That's how quickly it's moving. So the acceleration of coding impacts the bad guys as much as the good guys, and they're leveraging it in a different way and getting ahead of us in many different ways as well. The other thing that I think is a big challenge is the size of some of these countries who are the adversary forces, like China, for instance, and the amount of people that they put into the world of technology and cyber and technology threats. And I was listening to a really interesting podcast. I'm not sure if I shared it with my husband or if he's in here, but 600,000 Chinese cybersecurity tech experts are working on hacking. 600,000. Our military in Canada isn't even 100,000 So again, how do you keep up in that scenario? The only way we're going to be able to do it is if we really, really work together. One last bit of not so good news, and then I'll move on to maybe what I think the bad or better news is that, and this was a whistleblower from the company OpenAI. Many of you have probably heard of that company, big generator of Gen AI. And one of their key engineers left the company to work for a not-for-profit. He's out there right now talking about how fast Gen AI is getting closer to moving into and beyond human reasoning. So it's now making decisions on its own, reasoning, and maybe not reasoning in the way that we would want as humans managing this AI. So that in itself is a significantly challenging issue, and he has described the AI arms race between China, Russia, adversaries, and the rest of us as something that could really become significant for us to be concerned about over the next couple of years. So, big picture, and I think where we need to go is there's no question from a security perspective, we have to be on the offensive. We have to move with the same velocity. In the case of the EU, the Western Balkans, we have to work together. If we don't, we're going to have an immense issue in terms of warding off some of these issues. And you and I, Tuda, were talking about the AI regulatory environment. GDPR in the EU is way ahead, not the rest of the world. They're either choosing not to have a regulatory environment, or we haven't necessarily delivered AI regulation. So that in itself is a challenge as well. I think that this speed, obviously, as I talked about, ensures that this battle space now accelerates the misinformation, the disinformation. Anything else I wanted to say? I'm going to land with some good news. Definitely, if we get on the offensive, there are some critical things that we can do and this region could do. One of them is to really develop AI-powered real-time intelligence. So the key to getting on the offensive is having the intelligence before you're hit with the threat. So predictive analytics is critical for getting on the offensive, collecting that data and putting the patterns together across countries and organizations like the Five Eyes, a big threat intelligence organization. We need something like that over here as well to ensure that you can get ahead of this data-driven battle space, if you will. There are AI-driven cyber systems out there, and I'm sure that KSF is leveraging that and training around that. It's critical that we have the training and leverage AI in cyber. It's being used globally, but it's also being used by the adversaries, as I mentioned. And I think that's probably enough. I think obviously the investment in technology, in leading edge, bleeding edge technologies will be critical for the region as well to come together and mitigate the technology threat. So there's hope, it's being used, but the key is stay ahead of it, predict it, use AI to understand it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. You touched a lot of fields. So the new battlefield moved to cyberspace, and the new battlefield is very much multi-dimensional now. It is about fake news also shaping the democracies or non-democracies. In other hand, AI-backed cyber attacks or cybersecurity is something that we need to be on top of that at the edge. And it also requires the response from government, from institutions. You cannot leave it to individuals. You mentioned regulation. Up to now, there is only one obliged act. It is EU AI Act that passed on the 30th of August last year. Other countries do not have that. In that act, there are 4 levels that need to have in mind, and from the first level that don't need any intervention to the last level that is prohibited, like profiling of people like genetics and other things. And I think these also in some way enter to safety, to security, to robots. Let's look in Boston Dynamics, robots' capabilities, and others who are shaping. And definitely this time cannot be done alone. These require the joint action from countries, from institutions, because cyberspace does not recognize the country borders and other. Thank you very much. That was very important in this time of technology. Gzim, you have your special insight to all the safety, the security, the alliances between countries, the EU integration and institutional part. So can you tell more about something from your work also? How do you assess what can Kosovo do? How can Western Balkans contribute to integration? We know there are 5 non-recognizers in European Union. There are 4 non-recognizers in NATO, making Kosovo's position really much more challenging than all other countries. Then from Russia's requirements not to allow alliances to NATO, so it's all shaping the safety, the security of the region.
Thanks, Teuta. I suppose, so just to pick up where I left earlier, so despite Kosovo kind of being tier 2 state in this European architecture of security, it has shown creativity in surviving in this environment. And because we have enlargement fatigue, we have a disunion when it comes to enlargement within EU. We don't have a common policy on Kosovo's recognition. Within NATO, again, that sort of blockages. So a way around that has been the establishment of a European political community as another layer on European architecture, which, again, it just speaks of the historical formation of Europe. So in a way, that could provide Kosovo a backdoor to European debate, European participation and contribution. And so far, Kosovo has been compliant with European norms. It has followed norms, rules, instructions, without really much reward, I must say. So it's a remarkable example of norm-taking without really getting that reward, which is equality, membership, and a place in European architecture. And it has been a partnership without membership. So I think that's the system or subsystem that has emerged. Now that has the benefit of overcoming the fatigue or blockages within the EU. It shows institutional creativity and a way of surviving. But also it might be unsustainable. We have seen recently a military alliance between Kosovo, Albania, and Croatia. And that is a spillover effect of enlargement as well as NATO lack of commitment to offer Kosovo its desired place. So states don't stay static, they move, they look for alternatives. And rightly so, Kosovo was right to penetrate that European and NATO structure and then initiate bilateral security agreements. So I think the future will be very much fragmenting EU and NATO as structures and building on that into something new. And that's not what Kosovo wants, but I think that's what the dynamic is at the moment. It's leaving the existing structures and building upon that new institutional mechanisms, new forms of existence. But that absolutely then deepens regional instability. The idea of EU and NATO as peace projects meant to reduce this insecurity between states. So in a way, to go back to my initial point, EU and NATO, without really having a common position, a clear vision for the region, they are kind of creating these insecurities and further divisions in the region that we're not talking enough about that because, and this can be fixed easily. We can resist Russia.
How?
So it just requires sort of pressure from all sides and put up at top of the agenda for EU and NATO to have a common policy on Kosovo and Bosnia, on region's future, and a pathway to integration. That is easy, straightforward. Just follow the path as they did with Eastern European countries. Nothing to discover, you know, or innovate. But it seems that they're just like blocked in their own institutional veto powers and so on and so forth. So, and I suppose what Kosovo can do in this sort of fragile environment is perform its diplomatic creativity. And recent work by President Osmani must be commended for penetrating the blockages and fatigue that we had with recognition, with international sort of engagement, and so on and so forth. So I think women should be at the front of Kosovo's diplomacy and proactively use their creative agency to penetrate the system that is not really treating Kosovo equally, but still there is some room for maneuvering. So yeah, it's about, you know, building on the existing architecture of European security, but not really being hostage to the sort of waiting game that is not delivering for Kosovo.
Gzim, thank you. And that sentence, it can be done, it can be easily done, was really refreshing and positive, and you don't need to invent something new. There is a path, just find that path and go forward. So Marta, it falls also in your field of expertise that goes to countries' abilities, to institutional ability. So can Western Balkan countries come to that level and said, yes, it is easy to do, there is a path, let's find the path and go on?
I think that if there is a will, there is a way, and also, you know, European Union showed that in case of Ukraine, and as I don't know, like how it was like here in Kosovo, but when the full-fledged invasion started in 2022, we are quite positively surprised in Poland by the united reaction of whole EU and NATO to the threat of Russia, because already back then we have seen big division, especially in terms of threat assessment coming from Russia. The West wasn't united, so this very strong, harsh reaction on military level, sanction level, but also in terms of EU enlargement policy towards Ukraine and Moldova and Georgia back then, it was for us very strong sign of unity. And like for me, challenge is to keep this unity among the EU members, to really look for flexible solution. Also in terms of enlargement policy. And when we are speaking about the Western Balkans, I think this is this geopolitical opportunity. This is the momentum also Kosovo can use, because in terms of Ukraine, EU shows that there is a way how to circumvent those who blockade some stuff, and there are some institutional solution if really you really want to do so. And this momentum, we see it, that EU also needs some geopolitical success, and actually Albania and Montenegro use that opportunity, move forward in the process. Still, we are waiting for really reform on the ground, but in terms of technicalities, they really, especially Albania, now this is the front runner. It's with some problems inside, but the negotiation provide the framework, and I think that this is also the lessons for the all other Western Balkan countries, that do the reform, do homework, and push, and then we, you asked me about regional cooperation. I think like the regional cooperation is not only important here in the Balkans, of course it is very, very important, but also with the, let's say, association trio, it means now Ukraine and Moldova, that, you know, you also supported Ukraine, you supported with trainings, you have a lot of experience in rebuilding the state after the conflict. We can, like, I think Ukraine also can learn from the mistakes international community did here. So there is the room for cooperation with the partners from eastern flank. But I also think that together with Ukraine and Moldova, you can push EU to move towards like really having the new member on board. This kind of synergy in the EU should be created, that countries who both who support Western Balkans and the Eastern partners should work together. And there is, I think, a lot to be done on this cooperation level between two regions. But like one last point, I really appreciate the work of our army and cyber threat, but I would like also to underline that, like, for me, security is like very wide concept, and we really now we think about hard security, especially in our part of Europe, tanks, missiles. This is the thing. But what is sometimes missing for me in this debate, and like accept that the women rarely participate in them, about resilience of the society, because with the polarization we have in our countries right now, none society is safe if it's so divided. So like building this understanding on the community level, creating cooperation, and you know, not leaving anybody behind in economic terms, national terms, it's very important.
Thank you very much, Marta. We have some more minutes. Is there any question, any suggestion from the audience that want to ask panelists? Okay, then let's wrap up. If you can, with one sentence, 2 sentences, give a message, give a recommendation, what to do in this aspect from Fusika's part, from technology part, from institutional inside, and from the broader European part. So give us 1 sentence, 2 about recommendation. How could we improve this?
Okay, so regarding to the KSF, since I mentioned, we are still transforming, we are modernizing, and we are trying to do that. Through all these years, we have been those who, our partners gave us security in Kosovo, and our main intention is to be those in the Balkan, in the regions, to give security to someone else. This is our main intention, and this is the goal that we want to achieve in the future. So whenever our partners and allies need help from us, like we did, we are going to be there, and that the only way to go there is through trainings and through a lot of trainings to get there with everyone else. And also by including strong women, and everyone is more than welcome to serve in KSF.
Thanks a lot. From the consumer of security to provider of security for Kosovo and for region. Excellent, thank you. What about AI, technology? What should we do?
Whether we're speaking globally or regionally, when I look around the world and what's happening with many of our democracies, technology, underlying technology, has played a big part in dividing people. And if we look at some of the winners politically, many of their campaigns weren't driven meeting with people, they were through major capability provided through technology platforms. So to go back to my point around we need to get on the offensive and ahead of it, I think that the democratic leadership in our regions and in our institutions start needing to leverage They need to leverage technology as well to fight that same battle, or we're playing on an uneven ground.
Thank you. So being on the edge of technology, working with each other, and having institutions that can respond to this fast pace of AI and tech. Thank you.
I would say that security starts at home, and we observe it everywhere that third actors are exploiting divisions in our societies, and I think this is like serious threat, and we should really like address this. But we can also use technology like in a positive way, like to build the platform for all the people to be included in political processes, institutions, with like creating more responsible media, just to create like resilient society, because resilient society is harder to attack and to influence.
Thank you so much. Society is the key, the human touch. Gzim?
Yeah, so I suppose one advice or one idea I would put forward would be, we've seen over the years that the only way to sort of overcome these blockages is to have informal groups of states creating sort of, a focused campaign or an agenda. And when it comes to Kosovo's membership in NATO, I think if Germany, UK, let's say Croatia, and US together have a narrow and sort of clear agenda for pursuing or persuading those 4 member states who have not recognized Kosovo to do so, we might see change. I mean, we've seen with the EU position on Israel-Palestine war, it required Ireland, Spain, and recently Netherlands and France to really move on and break that sort of, fatigue and sort of imbalanced position on that conflict. So it requires to have an advocate or a group of states who would informally advocate for Kosovo to join NATO, and that would sort of very much would require timeline, sort of clear steps, and pressure within the alliance to overcome the status quo or this sort of liminal state of affairs.
Thank you, Gzim. So one more last push from our allies to make Kosovo not just consumer, but provider of safety, of security, of contribution to NATO and to European Union. Ladies and gentlemen, I was honored to moderate this amazing panel. Thank you, all of you. We finished with a lot of great recommendations, and I hope to see you again in the next panels, and enjoy Kosovo. I believe that we are making your stay memorable here. Thank you.